Welcome to another episode of the JCMoseleyFC Podcast. I'm Elliot. I'm here with Christian. It is great to be here. We are all set for an exciting episode today, Christian.
Yes, Elliot, a very exciting episode, the last of the year, unfortunately. But we're excited to bring you all the good news and the bad news about the beautiful game.
Yes,
So we're excited.
we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot that's been going on coming into the busy kind of festive Christmas period of fixtures too across Europe. It is going to be good. So let's jump right in, shall we? We'll start by talking about what's going on in the Premier League.
Good.
And today, I guess as we're recording this today, Manchester City just lost 2-0 to Liverpool. Two teams that I think would be good for us to chat a little bit about today. We can start with Man City because they are struggling. They're really struggling at the moment.
Yeah, this is unheard of. The last time I saw City struggle like this in the Premier League was Chelsea won the Premier League in 2017 when Guardiola ended the third in the Premier League. And that was the last time I saw them ending third. And they were really struggling that season, at least to the standards. So
Yeah.
I am really shocked, honestly, because if you told me at the beginning of the year that they were going to lose 4 games in a row, I was just going to laugh in your face and no, that's impossible. It's Manchester City, the great Manchester City. Everybody thought that they were going to win the league again, five in a row. So I'm shocked. I have no words to say. It's like, I mean, they have a lot of injuries. Rodri is like the main player, got injured. And just the usual star player like Kevin De Bruyne is, I don't know what happened to him. He's not doing good. They are really struggling. So, as a Chelsea fan, and I'm sure a lot of Premier League non-City fans that are Premier League fans are happy about this. I saw some memes online saying that you are sick if you are enjoying the downfall of a city, and I'm like, I guess I'm sick. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think the thing is too with there's a lot of layers to it. There's obviously the fact that City have been very successful, that Pep's been very successful. But then there's also kind of, the charges, the cheating allegations, those kind of things. I think that's partly why it feels so much more satisfying as a non-City fan to kind of see this. And, we know that it's not going to last. We know it's not going to, they're going to win again at some point, right? So it's, as we're recording this, it's 7 games without a win in all competitions. So they were, that's including the Champions League and Premier League, and I think the Carabao EFL Cup as well, where they lost to Tottenham. So they're, 7 games for Man City in a row without a win. Like if you said 7 games across a whole season without a win, that's believable. But 7 games in a row without a win is crazy for what we've seen from City. But I don't know. I think that this is something that we probably have to just enjoy while it lasts as non-City fans, because yeah, we do know that they're going to come back and they'll win again at some point. I don't know what I mean. Do you think they're out of the title race at this point?
No, never count City out, especially Manchester City. No, never. We are only 12, 13 games in. There's 25 games left. We're not even halfway through the season. So 11 points, yeah, it's a big gap. And then it'll be terrible if Liverpool doesn't win the league. At least maybe if Chelsea or Arsenal find a way to catch them, because they're only 9 points behind, then that won't be such a big deal. But if City catches them and wins the league, that'll be a disaster for Liverpool. So I think that I will not count them out. Honestly, I don't care what people say. 11 points is nothing for this Manchester City. I hope they don't catch up. I hope they get relegated for all I care. Honestly, that would be the greatest thing ever. But I don't count them out. They have, as long as they're early in Holland, and they have other players that will come in, obviously from injury. Rodri's out for the season, and also they have the market that is opening in January, and they can bring really good quality players that can make a difference. So definitely they're still gonna be in the top 4. I have no doubt about it. I don't even think they're not going to be in the top four this season. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't think it's over for them. I would
Yeah,
never do that mistake.
I
Never.
think it's very easy when it's such a big gap to just say, "Oh, it's over." But like you said, there's still a lot of games to be played. I think once we come out of this, December, January period of fixtures where there's just a lot of games happening, maybe at that point we can make a bit more of a judgment and see where they're at. They, I don't know if you watched the game today, but I watched the game against Liverpool today, and they
Yeah, I
just
did.
looked very vulnerable defensively, and they didn't really create much going forward, which that's the part. I think City have always had issues defensively in some
Mhm.
sense, but they never really have had problems with their attack
Yeah,
under Guardiola. And I think if I was a City fan, I'd be worried about that they're not really creating a lot of chances. They're not really scoring many goals at the moment. Erling Haaland's form has kind of dropped off, but I think partly that's because he's just not really getting any service from the wingers.
yeah.
Today I think he only had about 10 or 11 touches of the ball in the whole game, something like that.
Mhm.
He just wasn't involved. Kevin De Bruyne came off the bench. He wasn't really involved very much. They've got Phil Foden was quiet, and Liverpool just kind of bullied the defense and pressed a lot and forced them into making mistakes. And it was a very uncharacteristically weak performance from City, I thought, and I think that's just kind of how they've, at least from what I've seen in the recent weeks, it looks like a completely different team.
Yeah, I am. I mean, the funny thing is that Holland is the top scorer of the league with 13 goals, and not 12 goals as of right now, as of today. And then he in 13 games. So I mean, he's doing an amazing season. But obviously, to his standards, he's like dropped a lot. He hasn't scored a lot of goals lately. But I agree with you that it's very worrisome. I mean, I couldn't recognize. I watched the game too today, and I couldn't recognize City. I was like in shock. I thought, maybe you lose three games in a row, then you come back. I thought maybe they were gonna draw against Liverpool at least today, but they look dead. Like Goku wasn't when he came on the second half, he couldn't do anything. Jack Grealish, for some reason, Guardiola even tried Jack Grealish and Goku at this like together. Even though they are like similar players, play
Yeah.
on the left wing, and just didn't work out. Kevin De Bruyne came in, and I was like, "That's not the Kevin De Bruyne I know." It was like, What's going on with him? Um, but I mean, this was gonna eventually happen. It's always like this in football. A team, um, they can win like 10 titles in a row, and eventually something's gonna happen. Maybe the players are aging. It's not the same. It's not like 2019 Kevin De Bruyne anymore. Or even Gundogan that came back, he's not the same.
Yeah.
So it's an aging team. And also on top of that, they have a lot of injuries. Even they don't have the regular Ederson goalkeeper. Um, they don't have even in defense they have some players that are missing. So Kyle Walker is getting old too. So it's not the same city anymore. So I think maybe they're gonna realize that we need new players, and I think next season they're probably gonna let a lot of players leave. Um, I don't see De Bruyne on the team anymore. Probably Jack Grealish. I heard he hasn't scored a goal in 2024. I don't know if I should probably check that out, but I saw someone online. He hasn't scored a goal in 2024.
Wow.
Like what? I need to check that. But this is kind of crazy to me that you know. But I mean, I'm happy. I'm not sad at all. I think I'm enjoying this downfall. I hope they keep going down even further down because I'm tired of them winning and
Yeah.
winning everything. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. I think I agree. I think, every squad like that's going to get to a point where it's aging out a little bit, where those top players aren't quite hitting the same form that they have, or when you have injuries and you don't quite have coverage in certain positions, or performances drop off. I mean, it's tough to maintain such a high level for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I think we got to just enjoy it while it lasts, and they'll be back at some point, and we'll be talking about them again in 2025. I'm sure of they're back or whatever. So let's just enjoy it while we can, while they're not doing very well. I did want to say, though, I want to make sure that we give credit to Liverpool as well. I think not only in the game today, but just throughout the whole season, it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit of just how well Arne Slot has done as their manager. I think it's quite surprising. He's won 18 of their 20 games in all competitions this season.
That's insane.
So that, one draw, one loss. The loss was to Nottingham Forest, which is kind of ridiculous, really. But out of all of the teams that they've beaten, they lost to Nottingham Forest, and they draw with Arsenal, which is not a bad result. But I don't know. They looked very calm. They looked very controlled. In the game today, I mean, I was kind of I hadn't really watched Liverpool for a while, for a few weeks, and I was just impressed with how calm they were. Virgil van Dijk looks like the best version of himself again. Salah always causing trouble. I mean, he's potentially ending his Liverpool career at the end of this season. I think there's still some talk about whether he's gonna extend his contract or if they're gonna let him go, which I think they've got to do whatever they can to keep him, really.
Yeah.
He's one of the best. I think he's one of the best Premier League wingers of all time. I think he's certainly one of the best African footballers of all time. And yeah, but I just, Liverpool have had their injuries too. They're without one of their centre backs today. Alisson in goal's been injured for a while, but they just keep winning and they keep playing well. And it's very different to what I saw under Klopp. When Jurgen Klopp was the manager, it was chaos sometimes. It was just like high intensity, high press. Very different to what we're seeing this season, which is just very calm, very controlled, very efficient, I guess.
Yeah,
that's how I'm seeing it. So I think we're going to give them, and especially Arne Slot, a lot of credit for how quickly he's come in and made a positive impact.
Yeah, that's impressive, honestly. I wasn't expecting Liverpool to get kickstart the season like that, especially because he was a new coach. Whenever a new coach comes in, especially because Liverpool has been quite successful the past 5-6 years. So it was 2 Champions League finals. They won some trophies here and there. So it's been a successful team. And then he's come in. I mean, this Liverpool is scary. They are really, really good. Everything is doing great for them. Up front, midfield is great. It's like, I love watching Liverpool games. Honestly, I'm very entertained every time I watch Liverpool games. So I think it's gonna be a very interesting season. But again, we are so early on in the season that I don't want to put any label on anybody, because they lose 3 games in a row and they lose everything. That's it.
And it changes.
City's gonna be up there for them, and Arsenal, Chelsea could also be up there. So this can happen. That's what people don't forget. 11 points is good. It's a good cushion. It's makes you more comfortable, but you can lose 2 or 3 games in a row and it's over for you.
Mm-hmm.
And this can happen. We've seen it so many times with Arsenal. They were 8 points ahead of City. I think they were even 1 point away, 11 points ahead of City, and there were 10 games left, and they still lost the league.
Yeah.
So I think people are forgetting that. And that's how many people are saying, that's it, City is down, it's over for them. I'm like, no, they're only 11 points. They can come back. But obviously you have to give credit where it is. Liverpool is doing great. And as long as City doesn't win the league, I'm happy. I'm tired of them winning every year. Obviously, Arsenal, they started really poorly, but they're starting to be scary again, coming back. They won 2 games in a row. And Chelsea, uh, unless you want to talk more about Arsenal or
Yeah,
the team.
well, I think what we'll say on Arsenal is,
Yeah.
they had a dip in form. I think partly that was because they were missing some key players as well. Partly because, again, like we said, it's tough to keep such a high level for so many years. But for whatever reason, they've got a couple key players back that seems to be giving them a big lift. Martin Odegaard seems to be kind of like the key to their attack, doing to creating chances for them and those sort of things. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed their little period of not doing very well. That gave me a lot of satisfaction as a Chelsea fan. But yeah, let's move on to Chelsea though. We want to talk about Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea. I am delighted to announce that I was wrong. And I don't know if you remember, like, I think we had a podcast at the end of the season. We had a recap with Kanan, and I said, I think that I didn't see things getting better, but then that was like right at the end of the season, so I didn't know they were gonna change their ways. Okay, in my defense, they cannot change their ways. They didn't just bring an inexperienced players in and expect them to produce miracles. Because they brought some experienced players like Joao Felix. I mean, I know he's still very young, but he's experienced. He's playing La Liga, and he's also has some Premier League experience. They brought in Sancho, that is experienced player, really good player too. So I think they changed their ways. They didn't just bring random players, bring them together. So by doing that, by learning from the mistakes, the teams has improved a lot. And also, it's the second season that they played together. Cole Palmer and Jackson, all those players. I'm excited. I'm so happy to be a Chelsea fan again. My mental health has been a lot better. Seeing my team being among the top in the league. We haven't seen this in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, I'm just happy.
Yeah, it's been a difficult few years to be a Chelsea fan with, the going from the highest of highs, winning the Champions League, to then all of a sudden, the sanctions, Abramovich having to sell the club, new ownership coming in, that kind of getting off to a pretty disastrous start. Yeah, I think I will say a little bit of the same. I think I try not to be the most negative fan in the world, but I can be that sometimes. And I was not super impressed with Enzo Maresca being given the job initially. I thought this guy, he's only had one season managing a team in the Championship. That's a very, very different level to what it takes to manage Chelsea. But I'm very happy to have been proven wrong. He just seems to know what he wants. He seems to be able to get that out of the players. He's not afraid to make certain decisions about the team selection or leaving players out if he doesn't think they're a good fit, which maybe we can't say the same of previous coaches at times. So, I think he's just, the team's playing really well. The team's enjoyable to watch again. Like, I remember a year ago, 2 years ago, going, I don't even know if I want to watch this Chelsea game because I know it's going to be miserable and I know it's going to be like a really, really tough, painful watch. And now I'm like, the excitement's back again to watch my team play,
Yeah, there's nothing greater than that feeling, of like watching your team and say, okay, there's a chance we lose because it's a football game, but, just happy to watch the team and see players perform. At Stamford Bridge, Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, and then Jackson. I want to say for a few seconds that I want to take everything back and say about Jackson, because apparently he's doing even better than Didier Drogba his first 2 seasons. So I'm really proud of him. I mean, he missed a lot of chances today, honestly. I think he could have bagged an easy hat trick today. But, he's doing his job, he's scoring goals, and he's doing well, and I'm happy. and I hope that he keeps improving. I see him as a very long-term thing with him. I see that within a couple of years, he'll be like one of the best in the world. So Cole Palmer, amazing player, and Enzo Fernandez is great. He's doing. I mean, I'm just happy, man. Like 3-0 against Aston Villa. I mean, that has finished above us the past 2 seasons. That is playing the Champions League this year. I know they are like in a really, really bad spell right now. They're really struggling, but still, we are doing well. We are third in the league, only third because of point differentials. Actually, I'm looking at the points here. I think maybe it's like yellow cards because we score the same amount of goals and concede the same amount of goals as Arsenal.
Yeah.
But we are third. So, but at the end of the day, I'm just happy. Like, I will not complain. I know it's very early in the season, but we at least played 1/3 of the season already, and we are still third. So I think that I want to be in the top 4. I want to be Champions League again, and then hopefully next season we can compete for the title. That was, I think, the goal. I think of the club, anyways. All Chelsea fans, we wanted to be in the top 4. That was the goal, and win the Conference League. Those are the 2 goals. So we're doing great. I'm excited. I hope we keep going. Obviously, there'll be some tough matches ahead of us, but as long as we stay in the top 4, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, I think for it definitely feels different this year as a Chelsea fan to how it's felt the last couple years. I think even just with the new ownership, the last couple years we've not really had much positive things to say about them. We've not really had much positive things to say about their approach and the way that they've wanted to do things. But to your point earlier, I think they've been a lot smarter with their recruitment in the summer than they had been before. They're not spending 40-50 million pounds on a player that has played 3 games in Ligue 1. You're being a bit more smart with their recruitment. I think it's very clear too that the coach he's got a very clear idea of what his tactics are, the way that he wants to play, the way that he wants the team to play, and it seems like the team and the players are really buying into that, which is what you want. It's like you said, early days, but I think there's a lot more to be hopeful about at this point in the season this year than there has been in the last couple of years. I think we definitely are in a much better spot than
we're definitely a top 4 team. I think we can break in the top 4 this year. I really have a lot of things. I don't think we're ready for the title yet. I mean, that was the same thing I thought in 2017. You remember? Like, I never thought that from 10 we'll go and win the title. With 9 points. So I think usually in the Premier League, I don't know if you know this is sort of story. As long as you keep this in within the 10 points within the first team, you can still catch them. So we're technically in the title race, which is crazy, right? We're technically in the title race. We're only 9 points behind Liverpool. But I don't think we're ready yet. I want to be in the top 4. As long as we even finish 4th this year, it'll be a huge success for Chelsea Football Club. And I think everybody will be happy at Chelsea to finish 4th. But I'm excited because our players are young. They're not even 25 yet. They are very young and they are in a really long-term contract. So I'm just excited, honestly. And we haven't won a league in almost 10 years. So I'm hoping that, next couple seasons we can win the title. And I think it's possible with what we have going on. But I'm just happy that the owners and the recruitment has changed a little bit. Sure, they have their own mentality of like long-term contract, which is nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm okay with, seeing changes and new ideas. Nobody's going to complain about that. But you have to do it the right way. And it looks like they're starting to get things right now. They're not just bringing random players in. They're bringing experienced players per position. Because I don't know if you remember, we had like 4 or 5 center backs or like 5 central midfielders at one point. It didn't make sense. So they cleared everything out. And now, I'm excited, honestly, as a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
I'm really happy.
I am too. I think, like you said, early days still in the season, but I think there's a lot to be positive about, which cannot be said for recent years.
Before we move on from the Premier League, you want to talk about Manchester United? Unless you have, or you want to say something, I
Yeah,
apologize.
no, I was going to say we can move on from Chelsea and talk about another team.
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't we go with United? I think the last episode was right after they fired Ten Hag. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts now after the new manager's had a couple games to kind of get going?
I think that I'm so sad they got rid of Ten Hag. He was doing such a great job, but um, it is what it is. Anyways, so United is doing great, by the way. They won the last game today. They won a really good game today. I don't know if you watched the game, but
I didn't.
I mean, they're scary now. And I know it's only 2 games in, but like as because we watched football our whole life, so you can see a difference. You can kind of tell, when you watch a game, you can see that, oh my goodness, they're excited to get things together, and the new coach is doing a really good job. At least the past 2 games I've seen, like if they started like this from the beginning of the season, they would have been the title race. Obviously, still early in the season, they can still make top four. I don't. They are like 15 points behind Liverpool, so I don't see them being champions at the end of the season. But this is a United team that is improving, and I guess we'll see what happens. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it was. We probably said this on the last episode too, but it was always a case of when is Ten Hag going to get fired, not if is he. Like it was coming eventually. And I'll be honest, I don't really know a lot about Ruben Amorim in terms of him as a coach and his tactics, how he wants to play, those kind of things. But I've read and heard good things about him in terms of his approach to the game and the way that he wants to play. And I think that was probably the thing that United were missing, was there wasn't really any identity or any kind of philosophy of how they wanted to play. It was just throw these players out on the pitch and hope they win. And yeah, it's gonna take. I mean, it is gonna take time, and I think there's always this kind of new manager bounce, as they call it, where a new coach comes in, brings in fresh ideas, changes up the team a little bit. It's an exciting time for the players. We'll have to see how long it lasts, but right now I think they're on a good trajectory. So yeah, I think one other team in the Premier League that I wanted to talk about was Nottingham Forest, which they are doing incredibly well at the moment. I think they are up in sixth.
They're sixth right now with 22 points.
And then, just a point or two behind top four, is it?
City.
Yeah,
they're 1 point behind City after 13 games.
Yeah, they're a point behind City after 13 games in
the... Oh my gosh.
I guess Brighton up there too in fourth. Brighton have been doing very well as well this season. But yeah, we always get that. We always get those teams that do quite well at the beginning of the season and are quite high up the table initially. Again, I'm just going to ask the question. I know it's very early on in the season, but you think it's possible that Nottingham Forest and Brighton, one of them or both of them, could get at least Conference League next season?
Yeah, that'll be crazy, because Nottingham Forest, they are Champions League winners. I think everybody forgets about it. It's not. I mean, obviously, it's not a big club anymore, but they used to be a powerhouse back in the day. So, I mean, they're where they belong, I guess. I like the story, the fairy tale of teams winning. Smaller teams, really improving. I like that. It shows how anything is possible, especially when Leicester won the league in 2016. It just showed the world that it doesn't matter, as long as you have the belief, you have the right coaches, the right players, the belief, and then the right team. You can win. You can win anything. But it's exciting. But yeah, we'll see. As you were saying, there's some teams that always start really strong at the beginning of the season, and eventually they kind of start dropping down. So I mean, I'm not expecting them to finish sixth this season. I think they're probably going to be maybe Conference League, but I don't even think that. I think they're probably going to be mid-table. That's my prediction. And Brighton's doing well. They're 2 points behind us. They are fourth, but I don't expect them to stay up there. I think Europa League or Conference League for them too. Tottenham is struggling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though they beat City, it's like 3-0. 3, is it 3 or 4-0?
It was 4-0, yeah.
It was 4. Oh my goodness. That was, yeah, that was crazy. But honestly, I've not been excited about the Premier League this much in 5 years, 6 years, to be honest. Because, not just because of City, but because everything is like crazy right now. From the top to the bottom of the league is exciting. I feel like the Premier League is back.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's very, very close. I mean, you look at Brighton in 4th with 23 points, and then Aston Villa in 12th with 19 points. I mean, there's 4 points separating 4th from 12th, which is, again, like you said earlier, that's a team wins 2 or 3 games in a row, or a team loses a couple of games, drops points here and there. They can move up and down the table very, very quickly. It is exciting because that's the league that we grew up watching. That's the league that we fell in love with, right? Like that's why we love the Premier League. It's because any team can beat anyone. It's always close. Yeah, it's a very exciting season, and yeah, I mean even at the bottom of the table, it's Southampton, Ipswich, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Leicester, and Everton are kind of the teams in trouble. But even then, a run of 3-4 good games, and they could be right back up mid-table, looking at safety. It's just, yeah, and I think too, coming into this point of the season where there's a lot of games, I think it's like 7-8 Premier League games between now and New Year's or something like that, for most of the teams, and it's really a crucial run for a lot of teams, and for a lot of it can make or break your season how you do in this kind of busy period of fixtures, and I'm excited to see how it's going to go. I think it's going to be good. So we'll move on to the Champions League. A great season so far for the Champions League. It's been really good. We just kind of said it off camera here a minute ago, but Liverpool winning 5 out of 5, pretty incredible.
Yeah, 5 games out of 5, 15 points. It's insane. They've only conceded 1 goal in 5 games in the Champions League. Oh my goodness, this team is scary. I mean, they're definitely one of the. That's the thing. Like, it's still very early on in the season, but if they keep going like this, I think they're gonna be unstoppable. I see them winning the double this year, the Champions League, the Premier League, this season, and then, yeah,
it's definitely possible. I think when you look at the teams that Liverpool have beaten as well, they beat AC Milan in that first game. Historically very good European opposition. They beat Bayer Leverkusen 4-0, who were Bundesliga champions last year. Very, very good team last season. They beat Real Madrid 2-0 as well, which is, a big one when you consider how well Real Madrid have done in the Champions League in the last few seasons. Yeah, they're just flying at the moment, and I think they're gonna go very far into the competition. I mean, I think it's good season to be a Liverpool fan right now. But yeah, defensively too, I think that's something we kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. But like you said, they've only conceded 1 goal in the Champions League. Defensively, just across all competitions in general, they've been really, really solid. And I think, having a good attack is what's going to win you games, but having a good defense is what's going to win you trophies, right? And that's why I feel like they are such a strong team. Like I said, they're scary at the moment because they're not really conceding a lot of goals, which that's, the mark of teams that win titles, win trophies. They don't concede a lot of goals.
Yeah. This Liverpool team is scary, honestly. And I'm excited to see them. I mean, I love watching them. I mean, as a neutral person, as a football fan, I like watching them play. And it's very. I mean, I watched the game today. I was like, wow, what a team! The passing is like almost perfect from defense. The moment the counter attacks, I think they're not going to lose that for a few years at least, because I feel like Klopp implemented that in them from the defense. The moment they get the ball and you counter attack against Liverpool, you're in danger. I don't know if you saw that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Like counter attacks, they know how to pass the ball. The wingers just get the ball in, and then they get it to. They just like find a way. Like it's crazy. I just love it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful game. This is what
Yeah.
we call the beautiful game. Is that you don't just look at the score. You just look at the whole game and how the players play. It's really nice to see a team
Yeah.
perform like that. But then obviously, I don't know if you look at the table in the Champions League,
Yeah.
Inter is second. I think people are underrating Inter Milan. They have been doing well the past 5 seasons, honestly. They played in the Champions League final 2 seasons ago. They've been consistent in La Serie A. And Barcelona too. Like, I think Barcelona is back.
I think this is looking a lot closer to the Barcelona that we've seen for the last, certainly couple decades. Kind of had the dip in form, but yeah, I think I agree with you. I think they are back. I think they're doing well in La Liga as well. They're back in the Champions League, up at the top, doing really well. It's impressive. Yeah, good for them.
And let's talk about the flops. Um, PSG and Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Incredible. They have, after 5 games, PSG won 1 game, drew once, and lost 3 games. So they only have 4 points right now, and they're 25th. And you have to remember, guys, that the top 24 are the ones that have the chance of going in the round of 16. So if you're top 8 of this new format, you automatically in the round of 16. So you have to be top 24, otherwise you're out entirely of any European competitions. So PSG is currently out of that, and then Real Madrid is 24th. The great Real Madrid, they won twice and lost 3 times. So this is incredible. I mean, I'm not really surprised to see great teams struggle like this, because this is a different format. You play different teams, because before, when you only had 4 teams to worry about, sorry, 3 teams to worry about, you could spend like 3 months studying those teams. You only have to worry about 3 teams to beat at home and away. But now you can play any team now. So, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Real Madrid is really struggling. I'm really surprised.
Yeah. I think, I think we have to put Manchester City in that bracket of teams that are struggling in the Champions League as well. I think we have to put maybe Juventus in there, maybe Atletico Madrid as well, Bayern Munich potentially. Those are all kind of teams that in the old format you think, well, they're going to qualify from their group. But, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Man City, Juventus, they're kind of in the middle, in that middle range, the 9th through 24th, which would be they wouldn't be automatic onto the next round. They'd go to a playoff. But definitely not quite what you'd expect from them. But what I did want to go back and chat about Real Madrid a little bit, because one of the things that I've read online, one of the things that I've heard people say is Mbappe's made them worse, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I just think it certainly hasn't gone as we expected, putting Mbappe in that team. It certainly hasn't gone, I'm sure, as Madrid fans hoped it would, putting him in that team. But I don't know. It's largely the same squad. It's largely the same group of players that were just unstoppable last season. And I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what do you think is the reason that they are struggling?
I think people need to give him a break, honestly. I think that he just left France, Paris Saint-Germain. He left that team, and he's now playing with a different team, different country, different system, a system he hasn't played, he's never played in. Give him time. And I really think that he's going to be a successful Real Madrid player. I have no doubt about it. I know his potential. He's very strong mentally too. And I don't think that, I mean, I think people are forgetting that. I don't know if I saw that stat that Ronaldo, the great Cristiano Ronaldo, scored less goals than him at this stage in his first season. So he only had like 9 goals in 4 months. Can you just imagine that? Or Ronaldo, the great Ronaldo, that ended up scoring 450 goals for Real Madrid. 9 goals. So he's kind of following the same footsteps of Ronaldo, and I think people just need to give him time. I think he's been a lot of pressure on him. It's unfair. Yeah, unfortunately that's just how the world is, you know. In any industry you go in, if you're a top performer somewhere, people expect you to just get it going. That's a different situation. He was the star at PSG. Even when Messi and Neymar were there, he was a superstar. He's not there. He's not. There's like Vinny Jr. there. There's Bellingham, players that have proven themselves at the club. They won titles already. So he's not gonna just come in and be the boss and like score 20 goals the first 3 months. So I think that, you know, his stats are not that bad neither. If you look at his stats, let me look at the stats real quick for him. 13 matches, 8 goals. Why are people so like crazy about him? Like, oh my goodness, he's only scored 8 goals in 13 games. That's a dream season for a lot of players.
Yeah.
Because it's Mbappe. Because people expect them, and you know, you cannot just put all the factor on him, because there's this. It's a team sport. I think that people need to really understand that as football fans, you know. And I'm not like trying to talk badly about anybody that people are stupid. That's not what I'm trying to say. But people just need to come back to the basic. This is a team sport. There's a lot of things around him. You know, he usually a left winger, and he's been playing on the right and as a standing forward for the most part. So he's not really used to that. So I think that, you know, people need to give him time, in my opinion. And, you know, and unfortunately in life, that's how it is. You have ups and downs in life. And this is like the worst moments in his career right now. I've seen start his career. And I just know that he's going to come back from this and come back stronger, honestly.
Yeah. I think to your point as well, football fans, the media, however you want to describe it, there's always got to be somebody to blame. And they, you know, people don't have that perspective of, as fans, we don't always have that perspective of it's a team issue. There's other things going on. We forget that it's human beings playing as well. These aren't machines. These aren't like a different species. They're humans, and they deal with stuff that we all deal with, right? So they definitely, it's Mbappe coming in and maybe not quite hitting the heights that everybody thought he would. I mean, yes, his stats are great, but you know, like you said, the expectation on him was great. I think he's an easy target to blame for the lack of success. I don't know. I haven't really watched much of Real Madrid this season, but they seem to be struggling to recreate the level that they were at last season. I'm not really sure what it is, to be honest. I don't really know why they are struggling. But they certainly they don't look like the same team. I mean, you know, that team that won the Champions League, that team that won La Liga, you just kind of thought this is going to be an unstoppable force. And again, they've kind of run into some issues this season, and it's kind of hard to figure out why, really, exactly.
I mean, that's the thing, is like great teams like that, I'm not worried for them in a sense. Even though I'm talking as a neutral, I'm more worried for them because I feel like it's just so early on in the season. We look at the table in I know we're gonna be talking about La Liga in a bit, but even if you look at the table, I think they're like 1 point or something like that behind Barcelona. Yeah, they're like about a point. They have a game in hand currently, as I'm talking right now. So like they're not having a terrible. Sure, they're struggling in the Champions League, but there's 3 games left. They can probably make it in the top 24, which means that you have a playoff. You can make it around 16. Like people are just. I mean, I don't know. Like people are saying that like it's. I mean, it's bad. They lost 3 games, in the Champions League, which is unheard of from Real Madrid. But I still believe that they have so much left that they can come back and win everything. So, yeah,
Yeah, I
Real
think
Madrid is struggling. Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
I was going to say, I think with Real Madrid too, it's a little bit like what you were saying with Man City earlier. You can they're not at the level that they want to be right now, especially in the Champions League. But you can never count them out. I mean, they've shown that time and time again with their last minute wins, with clutching big moments in big games. You can never count them out. I think too, if you're looking at the fixtures that Real Madrid have left, they play Atalanta, they play Salzburg, and then they play Brest in France. You'd expect them to win all of those games realistically. I think they'll be fine. I think too. We talked about City. I think City will be okay. I think they'll finish in that top 24.
But yeah, I'm not worried about them.
I think Bayern will. I think Atletico Madrid had a rough start, but they've kind of picked it up a little bit. I would be worried though about PSG. I think that's the one team that I think it would be fair to say losing Mbappe has had a huge impact on them in the Champions League, and I'd be worried if I was them right now. There's a real genuine possibility, I think, that they might not make it to the next round and they might be out.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder if they're gonna fire Luis Enrique because of that. But I mean, this is a different format. It's so different, honestly. I'm not really like putting the blame on any of those managers and teams because it's different. I'm sure that even with Chelsea, when we go, hopefully we qualify the top 4 this season, then we go to Champions League next season. I think that we're gonna struggle too. I mean, I could be wrong. There's a really good chance. Maybe I should say there's a really good chance that we could struggle too, because it's not the same. It's so different. You play like 4 different great teams, instead of just one great team. When you think about it, before it was like top 4. So you had like, maybe you had like Bayern, PSG, and then you had, and no, I'm not trying to talk badly about those teams, but like you had like Young Boys and a team that nobody heard about before, So you only had like 2 very difficult games, and then after that you just had to pick up points with the other teams. But now you play like 3 or 4 great teams, so you can lose and you can win. So this is a very different format. You will have to get used to it, but I'm kind of worried about PSG too. Honestly, they've really been struggling in the Champions League, but I expect them to be in the top 24. There's 3 games left. Yeah, I should say it depends on who they're playing in the Champions League. The next 2 games. Okay, Strasbourg. Okay, they could probably get points there.
Yeah, they play Man City.
Oh, they're playing Man City. Oh, my angry Manchester City in January. Oh my God, this is not gonna be good for them, and they have to win that game. If they don't win that game, they're most likely out.
Yeah.
Okay, so they just have to win at least 2 games. Because even if they draw once, I think they're out because the other teams behind them are gonna probably catch up. Yeah, they're in trouble.
Yeah,
they're in big trouble.
I think.
Yeah, I agree with you that's the team we have to worry about. Honestly, depends on how they do. If they lose against Strasbourg, I think they're gonna be out because they have City that I'm expecting them to start beating everybody again in January. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's what do you make of kind of how we talked about it before the competition started, but we're kind of with the new format and the changes and what do you think of it so far? I mean, how do you think it's been? Do you think it's been a good change?
The Champions League format?
Yeah.
As I think I mentioned that it's kind of early, honestly. I mean, I know it's 5 games in. I kind of like it. I see how it just gives everybody a chance. You think about it, right? Everybody a chance to win the Champions League. It's more because it was kind of unfair. I mean, that's every tournament. Honestly, is prioritizing the best teams. Even right now, they still prioritize the best teams because I think the best teams they don't play each other a lot. But we see a lot more of that with this format. Even like if you look at the World Cup, we prioritize the best teams. The best teams always have the better seeding event. It's always that's just how the sport is built. But I like this format. Getting some used to it. I like that you have 3 games of Champions League instead of just 2 games, and it's just different. And we have to get used to it. But I've had I don't know if you saw the game Liverpool against Real Madrid. Did you watch the game?
I didn't watch the game. I did see the highlights, but I didn't watch the game.
It was crazy. It was a really, really entertaining game. 2 penalties. Was from Liverpool. Missed the penalty. Salah missed the penalty, and Mbappe missed the penalty. Mbappe was really struggling. I watched the whole game, and it was like he was struggling. He was not. It's hard to see a player like that struggle that much because we're not used to that. We're used to him like not even when he has a bad game, we're used to see him like do some really good assist, at least an assist or really good passes or be a really good threat. But the Liverpool defenders had him in his pocket. Let's just be honest. But yeah, what about you? What do you think about this new format?
Yeah, I think there's, with any change, it takes some adjusting. But my initial thoughts are that it is a positive change. I think, like you said, the fact that teams are playing more variety of teams this year with this new format than they would have played before. They have different things to worry about with coming up against 5-6 different teams or whatever it ends up being. It just adds a little bit of something different to the competition, and especially those teams that maybe wouldn't have fared as well in the old format. It kind of gives them a little bit more of a even playing field, perhaps, to kind of pick up, because they know if they pick up points, if they pick up results, there's a very good chance that they could progress to the next round. So I think it does make it feel like each game is a little bit more significant. But we'll see how it goes. Anything else about the Champions League, or did you want to move on to the Europa League?
Europa League, yeah, we should move on to the Europa League. To be honest, I haven't really been following the Europa League, but I kind of like see some highlights and stuff. Lazio is top. Wow, that's crazy. And then you have Lyon, that is doing great. Tottenham, they have 10 points. United, obviously, with a new coach, I think they won the last 2 games.
Yeah.
In the Champions League. Europa League. They're 12th right now with 9 points. And then, yeah, I mean, do you see any surprises here?
I think looking at the table, there's the 2 that surprised me a little. Roma down in 21st. Of course, I feel like Roma were a Champions League team for a good number of years. When we were growing up, they were consistently in the Champions League. They were consistently one of Italy's best teams. They've kind of had a bit of a fall off in the last few years. And, them kind of being in the Europa League anyway is a little bit surprising, but for them to be, 1 win out of 5 for them is not great. I think the other one that surprises me is Porto. They're down in 23rd. That's another team that historically has been in the Champions League a lot. They've played a lot of Champions League football. For them to be in the Europa League and again only winning 1 of their games, that does surprise me a little bit. But looking at the rest of the table, I haven't really paid too much attention to the Europa League this season, to be completely honest with you. I think I think the thing with the Europa League and maybe the Conference League too, I mean, I'll be honest, like I probably wouldn't pay much attention to the Conference League this season either if the team that I support wasn't playing in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the Champions League is what really is the most exciting to watch, and unless your team is playing in the Europa League or the Conference League, or unless there's, significantly big games happening, I'm not really following those as closely, to be completely honest with you. I
I
think,
think that's like you speaking on the behalf of every single football fan. I mean, we have all our busy lives. We have school, we have work. Um, Everybody has busy lives, so you can spend all day watching the games. So you have to pick and choose. And obviously, I totally agree with you. Like, if it wasn't for Chelsea, I mean, I didn't even really watch any game in the Conference League until this year. I'm gonna be honest. So yeah, because Chelsea's playing in Europa League is this. I don't really have any interest in Europa League. I feel like all the big teams really made it in the Champions League this year compared to the previous years where we had some big teams in the Europa League. But
yeah, I think that's a factor too. I think a lot of because the Champions League added a few extra teams as well. But I think also just because of the way that teams managed to qualify last season, the Champions League is where all the big teams are at, really. And that's kind of where it's the most exciting to watch those games. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, maybe once the knockout round starts, I might pay a little bit more attention to the Europa League. Kind of depends who's left in it too, and if it's any team, I'm kind of curious to see how they do or not. But yeah, I don't think there's really too many surprises. Should we talk about the Conference League?
yeah, the Conference League, the greatest European league this year, because Chelsea Football Club is there. 4 games, 4 wins, as expected. That would have been really a disaster and a shame if we were not even top 8. So I'm really happy about that. Let's not take this for granted. We scored 18 goals and only conceded 3, which is insane. So
Yeah,
I watched the game last Thursday, and it was a good game. I think we really performed well. Uh, Obviously, there were some scary moments where the team that we played. Sorry, there's no way I'm gonna remember the name of that team.
yeah,
The team that we played was really good, and they almost took the lead, but our defense was good enough to hold them. And Kulku, really good striker, doing well. It's kind of weird to have 2 different teams, to be honest. I don't know, and they're all world class players, but I'm happy it's working out really well because they are resting. They're not playing as much because yeah, it looks like there's a team for the Premier League: Caicedo, Cole Palmer, Jackson. They're only playing the Premier League this season, and then we have Nkunku, Jao Felix, other players that are like they have a lot more minutes in the Euro Conference League. So um, the format is working well for us as long as the players are happy with the play time. Nobody cares.
yeah.
Yeah, what do you think, Elliot?
Yeah, I think it is an adjustment to have 2 different teams. I think it's very much an indication of the level that the Conference League actually is, that we can pretty much play our B team every game and still win. I mean, the one a couple of weeks ago where they won 8-0, and it was 6-0 at half time or something like that. And again, with making 11 changes to the team that played in the Premier League game the week before, it's just, I think it just kind of goes to show like the level of European teams in this competition is not quite the same. I think we wouldn't be able to make 11 changes if we were in the Champions League. It's just a very different level. We're fortunate in that sense that we can, but you know what? It's working out really well. And again, I think too that even with all of the players, change, like even when they make 11 changes, you still can see the ideas, you can see the tactics, you can see the way that Enzo Maresca wants them to play. You can see that they kind of buy into that, and maybe the quality is not quite the same as some of those players, like you mentioned, that do start in the Premier League, but there's also a lot of really top quality players in that so-called B team as well. So yeah, it's gone exactly as we would have hoped and expected. And last time out, you said if we don't win this competition, it will be a disgrace.
Yeah, it'll be a disgrace.
I think so far it's looking good, and
Yep.
I think looking at the other opposition that's in this table. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of the teams in this table, and there's a lot of teams that I don't really recognize their names, or if you told me what country does this team play in, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Petro Cub, I have no idea where they play. But they're in there. Like some of these I mean, sorry to any Petro Cub fans out there that are listening to the podcast, but no, I've not heard of your team. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think it's a tournament that we'd very much expect to win. But again, if we weren't playing in it, I probably wouldn't really be paying too much attention to it, to be honest.
But I am looking at the prospect of winning the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Conference League. Like three, like this is gonna be something that I'm gonna put in my office and be like, so anybody that comes up know that I'm a proud Chelsea fan.
Yeah,
That we're only team in the world to have won all three of them. This would be great for us, and I hope that we achieve that. It'd be really great for the club. Honestly, hopefully we can move on from the dark dark moments. Oh my god, like you were right, like waking up and be like, what are we playing today? City? Oh my god, I'm not watching this game. You remember those days where we're like, oh man, like I don't want to watch that game, man. It was terrifying. We're like losing games, and like it was so frustrating where we could not even beat. We could literally have the easiest run, like 5 games where we'll play bottom of the league positions, and we'll lose or like tie against them. And I will be like, yeah, I really don't want to ever go back to that time. And this just shows how true Chelsea fan we are, because we like, oh, I want to go support. We could have been like, I want to go support Real Madrid. I'm going to go support PSG, but we stayed true because I don't know if you remember. I told you like it doesn't matter. We'll win or lose. I'll even go watch Chelsea at pubs where would like lose, get trashed, and watch the game until the end. And there were other Chelsea fans were there, were like supporting, were taking pictures, was still happy to support our team. And I think if we win the Conference League this season and we win we win top four, I think this will be a good win for us.
I think it'll be
like
hugely
it'll
successful
be a
season.
great season, and I'll be so happy, honestly.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a hugely successful season.
Okay.
Let's take a couple minutes break, and then when we come back, we will go around the leagues, kind of talk about how the rest of the European leagues are going. Okay, so we are back, and we are going to go around the leagues. As I said, we're going to start with La Liga, just kind of give a brief overview of the table, talk about our thoughts, talk about kind of what surprises us. Then we'll move on to the next league. So, Christian, what do you think about La Liga? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit during the Champions League section, but what are your thoughts so far?
I'm just really happy to be a Premier League fan because this league is boring. We already know who's going to be top three. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and it's about who's going to win among those three teams. I mean, yeah, it's. I'm not surprised. I don't see any surprises. Maybe Valencia that is struggling a little bit this season. Sevilla too. They are currently 12th with 18 points. A lot is struggling that are usually among the top, but the top three: Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Barcelona is really working hard this year. They dropped a few points the past 3 games. They lost quite a few, so excited to see what's going to happen. Yeah, they lost yesterday, Saturday, the 30th of November. They lost against La Palmas. So they're dropping points like crazy. So Real Madrid is catching up to them. So currently, as of December 1st, Real Madrid has 33 points. Barcelona has 14 points. But then they have a game in hand. So that 4-0 loss is wasted pretty much. So
yeah, well, and we were talking about that on the last episode about how Barcelona winning the Clásico 4-0 kind of looks to be not quite running away with La Liga, but certainly comfortable, but that's and that's what we said about the Premier League too, about any other league. You can have a bad run of 3 or 4 games where you don't pick up points, and it gives everybody else a chance to catch up. So, but yeah, I agree. I think we kind of always know what the top 3 is going to be. It's just what order are they going to finish in. And I suppose it's still quite close. I mean, Atletico Madrid on 32 points as well, so they're only 2 points behind Barcelona with 15 games played. But yeah, I agree. It's just kind of it's not as interesting as the Premier League, is it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Yeah, should we move on to Bundesliga?
Yeah, Bundesliga.
Um,
I'm not German. I can say it right like that.
So Bundesliga is 12 games in. It looks like all the teams as of today have played 12 games. Bayern Munich are sitting at the top with 30 points. They are yet to lose in the league, actually. They haven't lost a game yet in the league, which is a kind of a return to form for them. Last season struggled a little bit. Obviously, Leverkusen had a fantastic season, but looks like Vincent Kompany's been doing a good job.
Let's pray the Hurricane finally wins his trophy. This is all I care about at this point. I mean, they are the leader of the pack. They are 4 points ahead of, I'm not going to try to say it, but Frankfurt. And then Leverkusen is third with 22 points. And Dortmund, I mean, it's not as exciting as the Premier League, as I always say. I mean, the Premier League has been boring for the past maybe 2 or 3 seasons, to be honest. So this season is like exciting. This season, a lot of changes, but Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso, obviously, I wasn't expecting him to perform the same way this year. But yeah, 5 draws, that's a lot of draws. And I expect Bayern Munich to win the title this season. And hopefully the great Hurricane, because people are underrating this player. And I'm not saying that because, you are English, Elliot. I'm just saying that because of the truth. But Hurricane is a great player. He's won so many individual awards, so many things. And this will be a great thing for him to finally win. And it looks like they're on the way there. And yeah, Vincent Kompany is doing great. Really good coach. I mean, I like seeing young coaches perform well, and he's doing well. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and that was we probably said it earlier in an earlier episode, but that was a surprise that he got given the job based on getting relegated with Burnley in the Premier League last season. But to his credit, he's done great. And yeah, you love seeing younger coaches come through and doing well. So it's putting the future of the game in good hands, I think, when you have that.
You want to talk about the Liga McDonald's League One. I think everybody forgets how it's called. Oh my God! Like the Liga is so screwed. Like nobody cares about that league anymore. I feel so bad because it used to be a great league. Remember, like back in the day when they had Lyon. Lyon was like the top team in Europe. Marseille was great. It was a league that I grew up watching Liga, but it's boring right now, to be honest. But yeah, PSG is doing well as expected. They are 4 points ahead as of right now against Monaco. Marseille is third. Marseille is doing really great this season, by the way. And Lyon is kind of, I don't know if you remember last year, Lyon was really struggling last season, and they are getting back there. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
The Liga McDonald's.
Liga McDonald's. Yeah. I think it's kind of going as we expected, really. PSG quite far above everybody else. It's not as exciting. People don't really pay as much attention anymore unless you support one of those teams, I suppose. Yeah, it's kind of, it gets given that Farmers League tag a little bit.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think it's literally the most boring league. No offense to French League. I love La Liga. It's still a great league, but oh my God.
Yeah, it's definitely not. There's a reason that it's not as watched and as loved as some of the other leagues around Europe, because, and I think especially too with PSG losing Mbappe, with once they lost Neymar, when Messi moved on, they kind of lost a lot of their star players, which would have been the reason that people watched Ligue 1. And now there's not really much of a reason anymore. I mean, PSG, yeah, they still have some good players. They still have some world-class players in their squad, but it's not the same as having Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Di Maria, some of these greats of the game. So I don't know, just kind of a bit boring. Sorry, French fans.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said everything, Elliot. So let's move on to another league, La Serie A, which is, I think people are underrating that league, La Serie A. It's actually a great league this season. I mean, I should probably like purchased a subscription to watch this because Napoli is first right now with Antonio Conte, the great Antonio Conte, and they have like 4 points ahead the second as of right now. Inter is struggling a little bit, but they're only 4 points behind Napoli, but they have a game in hand. And Lazio, but the team that is really struggling this year is AC Milan. They are 22 points, they're 10 points behind Napoli with a game in hand, but still 10 points behind them is a lot to overcome. But yeah, this is as exciting as the Premier League, honestly. If you look at the top 6 of the table, Juventus is 6 right now. Napoli, Atalanta, Inter, Fiorentina, Lazio, and Juventus. So it's exciting. What do you think, Elliot?
I think you're right that it's maybe a little bit underrated, this league. It kind of does go under the radar a little bit, because I think it partly is because, again, there aren't really those superstars that play in the league necessarily compared to Bundesliga, Premier League, La Liga. But you've got a lot of great teams with a lot of history, and it's very close, very exciting. I think a few years back it was kind of a bit Juventus was just going to win, and we just knew that was how it was going to be. But it's definitely got a lot more competitive. Great to see Napoli on top. They struggled last season. Obviously they won the title 2 seasons ago. They're kind of back up there. Inter Milan, like we mentioned, I mean, they're doing great in the Champions League. They've been doing great domestically as well. Fiorentina is one that kind of surprised me a little bit of how well they're doing. They're probably Chelsea's main competition in the Conference League, I would say. They are also in the Conference League, so they're probably the one team that we'd have to watch out for. Juventus, I think, does surprise me a little bit with kind of being down there in 6th, but they've lost a lot of their players. Their squad also kind of went through what we were talking about earlier, where a lot of their players aged out of the team, and they had a harder time replacing some of those superstars, I guess. Obviously, losing Cristiano Ronaldo was a big hit for them and a big miss. And yeah, AC Milan, really quite surprised. I mean, they have a very good squad, I think. AC Milan, they do have a good squad, but just not quite coming together for them so far this season. But yeah, it's been definitely one of the more exciting leagues around Europe. So before we finish, we were going to just very quickly talk about MLS.
Yeah, MLS.
So for those that don't know or don't follow MLS, the format of the league is a little different to European leagues. MLS season kind of goes from March until December, really. They kind of have this playoff format at the end, which next Saturday is going to be the MLS Cup final, LA Galaxy against New York Red Bulls. The team that kind of plays close to where I live, I've taken a bit more interest in them and been following them this season, just because it's a place I can go and watch live football, and it's always kind of fun to be there. But the level is just kind of not the same. Obviously, it's not really a surprise that Inter Miami won the overall league in terms of they kind of finished top of the table overall. Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez. It's basically that Barcelona team from 2015, 2016 kind of back together again. at least partially. But they did get knocked out of the playoffs, and that was a bit of a surprise. But I've only really paid attention to the MLS in the last few years because of living in the US and having a team close by to where I live. But I don't know. We'll see. I think it's definitely improving. I think it's growing. But and I think bringing Messi over to the league definitely helps with that. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So I think that the MLS is definitely growing. From the moment I first came to the US years ago, over a decade ago, it was not at this level at all. So it's improved a lot. Really improved a lot. I'm really happy. But then the reason why I wanted to briefly talk about the MLS is because even though Inter Miami finished like that the most points ever after a season in the MLS, they still lost to Atlanta. And I just heard about how they were complaining about, oh no, that's not how it should be. They should change things around. They should only play the best in the conference, play against. And I'm like, that's just how it is. It's an American, what's called league. You have to make it American because otherwise it's not an American league anymore. And here in the US, we love the playoffs. You just love that thrill of playoffs. It's always been like that. So they had to make it like that. And they're just complaining because they want it to be like in Europe. I'm like, this is not Europe. This is not Spain. This was Jordi Alba that was complaining. But LA and and in your Red Bull, I know those two teams haven't been in the final in a long time. So this would be very exciting. I'm probably gonna watch the game, the final.
I think I probably will as well. It looks like LA Galaxy are probably the favorites, marginally, but they did knock out LA Galaxy did knock out the team that is close to me. So I did watch a couple of those games, and unfortunately saw my local team here get knocked out by Galaxy. But I think one of the things that I think we mentioned too is that in a previous episode is that Inter Miami have been given a spot in the Club World Cup, which is an interesting decision by FIFA, an interesting choice. I think we all know why that's happened.
Yeah.
And his name is Lionel Messi, but I don't know. I think there's still that conversation around Messi of he's a superstar and he's up there with the greats. And I believe you'd mentioned off camera that he is nominated for the FIFA Best Award this year.
Yeah. Yes.
Which I don't know. That seems quite strange to me, really. I mean, no doubting he's a great player, no doubt his influence on MLS Inter Miami.
Because they won the Copa America too, but he wasn't even the best player in the Copa America. He wasn't the best player with Argentina. I love Messi. Like people, I don't want to sound like a Messi hater because I'm not at all. Like despite what everybody might think, I just think that it's so obvious. The bias is so obvious. The treatment is so different for him. I don't know why. It's just like, why would you pick him to Miami to go? Because it's the MLS champion that you should pick. How is it fair to LA Galaxy or New York Red Bulls? They would have loved to represent the US, but no, Inter Miami. Sure, they were the best in the league because they won the most titles, but here in the US we do things differently. We don't go based on that. And they obviously wanted Messi to be there because of more money, because it's Lionel Messi, the World Cup. But at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah,
you can't do anything about it. But here they just show proof that there's definitely bias towards Messi with FIFA and all the conspiracies how they gave the cup to Messi and all that is just probably gonna come back. But I'm excited to have the Club World Cup in the US. And Elliot, we have to make it work. We have to go. Yeah. We have to go support our great Chelsea team that will be there. This will be great, great time. And we have to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to.
All right. Well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up there. It's been a great episode. We've had a lot to get through and a lot to talk about. And I think we're entering that point in the season too, where, as I mentioned, there's a lot of games coming up. Things can change very quickly. It's going to be an exciting few weeks of football. We, as Christian mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this is our last episode of 2024. So we hope you all have a great holiday season. We hope you all have a happy new year, and we will see you in 2025.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hopefully next year will be a better year for all of us. And happy holidays, like Elliot said. But I will talk to you guys next year. Really excited. Yeah.
Yeah, see you then.
See you then.